Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 17th of October 2022, and these are the stories that will be under discussion during the course of the show. We will begin with the latest as far as the flood situation in Pakistan is concerned, and how people in those areas of Pakistan where the flood water has receded to some extent are returning now, whether it be in Punjab or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. A lot of people are returning to their homes, to the places which they call their own, but a lot of those places are now completely destroyed, shattered, with of course a lot of issues that pertain to the livestock, to how they are going to move forward in their lives as far as the reconstruction, the rehabilitation is concerned. There is a report that has come from the United Nations Office of Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs that says the waters were receding, particularly in Sindh and Balochistan, and of course the people want to return to their homes, and this is what they have always wanted. 33 million plus people, ladies and gentlemen, have been affected by these floods. This is going to be our first segment, the latest as far as the floods in Pakistan is concerned: relief, rehabilitation, reconstruction. Second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns global strategic threat and response seminar that is being held under the Center for Aerospace and Security Studies. We are going to talk about the evolving global order in the world, the challenges and opportunities that exist, and what needs to be done by the different countries that matter to the world, by the different organizations, in order to make the world a safer place, in order to make the world a more sustainable place, especially in the wake of so many issues that pertain to our world, whether it be geostrategic, geopolitical, or even related to climate change. Then we are going to talk about the latest as far as the Russia-Ukraine crisis is concerned and the impact on world economy. Today is the 236th day since the war began between Ukraine and Russia. Now, UNICEF says in a report that children are the worst affected as far as this crisis is concerned. There are, of course, facts and figures also. Some 4 million children into poverty across across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and this is a very staggering figure. This is a very important figure. But will the world listen? Will those countries that are involved in this war come to some form of negotiation? This is going to be our third segment. Then we will talk about the global hunger index, where India has fallen 6 positions and now ranks 107th out of 120 countries, rather 121 countries. This is a report that was published on Friday. India, being a strong economy, nevertheless has fared far worse than other countries such as Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns the latest as far as flood situation is concerned. The water receding, the people are returning to their areas, but do they have the necessary resources? More in the following report.
Pakistan is braving the ravages of unprecedented climate catastrophe as relief and rehabilitation activities are underway in rain and flood-affected areas of the country. In its latest situation report, United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has stated that flood-affected people in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are returning to their places of origin, or at least close to it, to assess livelihoods condition. Based on the observations by United Nations Satellite Center, the floodwater has decreased by around 300 square kilometers in Balochistan, 900 square kilometers in Punjab and 4,000 square kilometers in Sindh. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif reached Balochistan for a day-long visit to review the ongoing relief and rehabilitation efforts in the flood-affected areas. The mounting challenges in flooded areas show no sign of abating, whereby the winter is about to exacerbate the misery of flood victims, and outbreaks of waterborne and vector-borne diseases continue to increase in Sindh and Balochistan. Floods have also aggravated food insecurity and malnutrition, and according to UNOCHA, an estimated 14.6 million people acquire emergency food assistance from December through March 2023, an increase of over 100% of the pre-flood estimate. Earlier, United Nations humanitarian coordinator Julian Harness revealed that aid pledges made by United Nations member states towards 2022 flood response plan for Pakistan were not converting into commitment.
Dr. Jamil Khan, former ambassador, joins us online. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. When you look at the relief and rehabilitation as far as the flood situation is concerned, sir, a lot of refugees, the climate refugees I'd call them, are now returning to their respective areas where they used to live. But those areas have now been devastated by the floods. What, in your point of view, are the key challenges as far as their rehabilitation is concerned and some kind of normalcy in their life is concerned, bringing them to some kind of normalcy?
Well, the biggest challenge is that the funding for the rehabilitation and reconstruction. Now, the United Nations flash appeal of 160 million has not been materialized. As I was reading the report, only $38 million have been converted into the relief and rescue fund. So basically, the relief and rescue has yet not been completed in its entirety. And the rehabilitation obviously requires, all these climate refugees, as you very correctly pointed out, once they are returning back, they're finding their houses just a rubble, not the houses. It's about, in the province of Sindh and most of the southern Punjab also, it's about 90% of the Kacha houses which got totally, razed to the ground. So under these circumstances where you had flood in 2010, only 400,000 cusick. This time it was 700,000 cusick, the water which had flowed. And were we totally equipped? I think this time the nature was very harsh, and the Secretary General has already pointed out that the nature has chosen the wrong target. In fact, without any fault of our own, except a little bit that I can dilate upon later on, that the obstruction of the water in the river Indus and some of the more obstructions, deforestation, those are one of the things, but that wouldn't have really impacted the kind of devastation which we are now witnessing here. So coming back to your point, the rehabilitation part of it, rehabilitation takes quite some time and of course a huge funding. Government of Pakistan has allocated a reasonable fund from within their own resources by diverting their PSDP, and that is not sufficient as a matter of fact. And then other provincial governments totally equipped and ready to implement that. Now the funding would start pouring in fact, the rehabilitation, reconstruction as well, but we have to put in place the entire governance and infrastructure to do the rehabilitation. And not only the rehabilitation, but this time we have to do the climate resilient rehabilitation.
That is so important, Dr. Jamil, that is so important because the last time that didn't happen when the floods happened, and now climate change, and now how we are seeing the effects of climate change in a country like Pakistan. We need to be extremely careful and vigilant and be future ready when it comes to now reconstruction. Coming to rehabilitation, Dr. Jamil, winters are here and there's a dearth of tents, there's a dearth of blankets, shelters. What, in your point of view, needs to be the collective response or strategy to protect the people from these harsh weather conditions? Because a lot of them are going to go to their places and there will be no homes for them per se.
No, basically the response and rescue should have catered for this. In fact, they have started catering. We have got a reasonably good amount of the aid, and which contains the blankets, the tents, and all these temporary shelters. So basically, it's just a complete mechanism for its distribution, and distribution in accordance with, for example, in the upper part of the country, we need to provide them now, as a matter of fact. And in the lower part of the country, which is the province of Sindh, starting from Sakar, if we have to start equipping them. So in this segmented manner, the government of Sindh is trying to prepare themselves for that, and they've started planning their way. So in that fashion, and that is also part of the provincial disaster management plan. So they have a plan, it's just a matter of implementing it properly. The relief and rescue could not be done as efficiently as it should have been because of the factor which I just illustrated about the kind and quantum of the flood and the water which had poured in. So because of it, and not myself only, but the Secretary General also said that he had never seen this kind of a demonstration. And the kind of words which the Secretary General has used, I think those are by itself very powerful sentences, very powerful speeches which he has uttered. So from that perspective, I would say that the structured and the phase-wise the relief is to be provided, which could help them rehabilitate. If these people are healthy and if these people are not really impacted by the climate and if they start falling sick and start going to the hospital, they would not be able to participate in the rehabilitation work. Because in the rehabilitation work, the participation of the people, the climate refugees, as you indicated, they participate themselves in the reconstruction, in the rehabilitation.
You know, Dr. Saab, you talked about health, Dr. Saab. Now, there are so many health problems that have emanated because of this situation of the floods. There are waterborne diseases. We've got diarrhea. We've gotten cholera. We've gotten dengue, and so many other diseases. Where a lot of women have given birth, are about to give birth, but they are not the proper. They won't have the proper sanitation kits in order to give birth under the right conditions. Also, a lot of infrastructures, health infrastructures like clinics, hospitals have been destroyed because of the floods. How in your point of view, should the government and all the friendly countries that are helping Pakistan move forward to help those people who've been affected health-wise and otherwise as well, and are returning to their homes?
As a matter of fact, we have to help ourselves first. The first response, which was supposed to be given. In fact, once your health facilities, about a sizable percentage of your health facilities were totally wiped away, totally washed away with a flood. Your schools, your health facilities, your infrastructure, 1,700 people died, about 2 million homes destroyed, 1 million livestock gone, and 33 million people, they are the climate refugees. So from that perspective, if you see, 1/3 of Pakistan is submerged over 95,000 square kilometers of the country. Now, what should have been done and what is to be done now because of the weather changing, because of the temperature rising? Now, basically what has happened was that the government, since their infrastructure was totally washed away, so they really had to take some time to deploy their doctors. Now, I can say that the government has, to its greater extent, have been able to deploy its doctors, but I've been suggesting on various channels that our private hospitals, they should have also participated. I've seen Aga Khan University Hospital, they have really done a marvelous job, and they deployed more than about 300 the clinics all over, and they have been able to deliver health facilities of Aga Khan University Hospital, health facilities of to about 300,000 people. So if
that is so true, Dr. Jamil Khan. The issue remains that a lot of effort needs to be given, needs to be put to those who are returning, and to also those who are not returning, whether it be health-wise or infrastructure-wise, or even aid-wise, to all those who are in need. This is a collective responsibility not only of Pakistan but of the entire world, and I hope that the world is listening. Thank you so very much, Dr. Jamil Khan, sir, former ambassador, to have joined us, to have talked to us about the latest situation on these floods. And of course, UNOCHA that talks about all those people who are also returning to their homes, because their homes or what is left of it because of the current situation and the water that is receding. We have to go to a short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But the global scenario is changing. The geopolitics or geoeconomics or geostrategy of the world is changing. New alliances are being formed. New world order seems to be in the making, and of course countries and their groupings have also changed. The Russia-Ukraine war or other issues across the world have really turned the tables around for the world. What are the new alliances that are in the making? What is the new global order that is slowly and steadily evolving? What are the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead as far as this global world order is concerned? To talk about that, we've been joined by Air Marshal Farhat Hussain Khan. He is the president of the Center for Aerospace and Security Studies that is located in Rawalpindi. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Sir, in this whole scenario of geopolitical and geostrategic and geoeconomic changes that we are seeing, especially in the last year or so since the Ukraine-Russia conflict began, the different sectors have been affected, and your sector also, that is the aerospace sector. And the applications, kinetic and non-kinetic, have forced states to rethink future doctrines, strategies and warfare. What is Pakistan coming up with? What are the strategies that Pakistan is trying to evolve itself into?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'll take a while to explain the scenario. What has happened in the last 20 years and what should we be doing? Actually, after the end of Cold War, the world expected a bit of peace, but it did not happen. We ended up into global war, terror, and that destroyed a lot of countries, economies and social stuff, all that. So, what happened during that process, towards the end of it, 12, 13, 14, when President Obama wanted to exit from Iraq, so he now was, from Afghanistan. So, the focus of world shifted from Atlantic to Pacific, Indo-Pacific. That is number one. And Indo-Pacific, the countries are very important, Australia, Japan, and China. So, basically they shifted this side to checkmate China.
All right.
Now they got, that's one. That has implications on the entire world.
AUKUS, for example, one.
Okay. AUKUS is one, Quad is another one. And Quad has 4 important countries, India, United States, Australia and Japan. Moving forward from there, they are now working on another Quad in the Middle East. That has 4 countries, India, United States, Israel and UAE. So, these two, both the Quads, when you look at it, they have implications for Pakistan, economically and strategically. What happens when you work on the Asian-Pacific, Indo-Pacific strategy, Quad? There is a huge transfer of technology and logistics. There are mutual contracts also between the United States and India. There are a number of contracts that have taken place. That's exchange of logistics, exchange of communication, exchange of information. All this combined together has created that, trying to create that wall to stop China's rise, which is expected to be an economic power ahead of United States by 2030. So, to stop the rise of from a unipolar to bipolar, that the word is moving on, or to stop that, they are now making India stand here from this. So, when India stands up here, it is in the Middle East. Both the regions are very important for Pakistan.
All right.
So, it has implications on our security. So, what are we doing? That's one.
Exactly. That is very important.
Okay. Now, what we are doing? We have to listen and see what the others are doing, what they think about it. And then, so what we are doing in this session number 1 and 2 both on 19th, we are first listening to the American point of view on this, as the G-Star is concerned. Robin Raphael is here, she will be talking to us on the Indo-Pacific strategy and security implications.
All right.
The second, on the same day, the second speaker is a Chinese speaker who will be talking of China-US rivalry. So, he is another interesting.
That's very interesting.
So
that
when these two guys talk about it, then we have our own guy giving us the options. So, we will be coming out, inshallah, at the end of this for policy option for government of Pakistan, for policy makers in Pakistan, as what we should be doing. That be well thought, well researched approach that we have.
When you look at policy options, Pakistan has time and again said that it wants to have a similar relationship with both the United States of America and also China. Do you feel, I mean, I'm asking you this before the G-Star conference happens, seminar happens, do you feel Pakistan can manage to balance its relations with the United States and China at the same time, or do you feel there needs to be a tilt somewhere somehow?
I think Pakistan has suffered a lot in the last, and we need to concentrate on our economy and other things, and therefore we need to stay away from getting into some trouble with any one of them.
Or taking any sides, basically. That's what you're saying.
That is one. For us, United States is important. Our exports are to that side. Strategically, technologically, they're very important. At the same time, we have a long relationship with China. So we have to trade it very carefully, and the path is very clear that we need to stay friendly with both of them, do business with both of them, and ensure our own national interest. That's the bottom line, that we must ensure achievement of our own interests. And when we work on that, it is not against anybody, neither against China, neither against Pakistan. Rather, if we can work like that, we can act as a bridge between the two and to help resolve some of the tensions if there are.
How important or difficult is the road from geopolitics to geoeconomics for Pakistan?
Oh, okay. We are actually into geopolitics and geostrategy for the last many years. We stuck in Afghanistan. We have on the eastern side, we know wars and all that stuff. So it is not an easy track, but we have adopted and we've taken that step. I think that's a good step, and the entire nation supports it. I think good initiative. It will have challenges, and I think if treated carefully, we should be able to cross the bridge and move forward on this. More so when we achieve connectivity to the Central Asia and all that, so our economy should pick up. When the economy picks up, we have more in our pocket, we can do much more in other areas also, in the strategy, in the politics, in the foreign policy. They all depends on the economy.
That is so true. Coming to military technologies, we see a lot of emerging technologies. I think the way technology is emerging in the last decade or so has been unprecedented. Now, in this whole arena of emerging technologies, there are diverse military applications as well. They are, of course, making the whole arena of the world or regional security landscape more complex. Do you feel Pakistan is adapting well as far as this fast-paced technological explosion is concerned?
Okay, that's a challenge that Pakistan has this time. Why? Because of the Indo-Pacific strategy, India is going to get downloaded with a lot of technologies of this type, and that's planned also. These contracts are meant for that. So the new technologies that are coming into the region obviously will have our own difficulties or challenges that we face. So I believe so. Our planners are aware of it, and I think we have started moving in that direction. We are so far okay, but we definitely need to work in that direction. Research-based policies need to be formed, which are long-term, and in my view, it should be indigenization based research that should take our technology in direction, because we must have our own technologies. We are now into different arena. More than 10 years back it was different.
Now we are in the space that space technology and the drone technology has become so well maneuvered that this is what is going to be the future as far as technology is concerned and use in military is concerned.
Artificial intelligence, space, laws, weapons, the space weapons. So all these things, and one more thing about these technologies is there are not many or not clearly defined rules at internationally so far. People are developing how much, where, that's also another area. So there is a task ahead, and we have to move forward and pick up the pace as far as technologies are concerned. And one session, and this is concerning the emerging technologies and warfare in G-Star also.
That is why I asked you the question. Sir, also we are seeing a lot of militarization or weaponization in space. Because you mentioned space, I'd like to add to that. Can Pakistan join in the race? Do you feel this is going to be the future as far as military warfare is concerned, that the next wars are going to be held in space and not on Earth? What is your point of view on that?
Actually, the wars on Earth means land warfare, wars in the air means the air wars, and then space application to it becomes the aerospace power. So that is how the things go. The world is moving, from slower engagement to long range engagement. Earlier on, 30, 40 years back, we used to be engaging aircraft within 1-2 kilometers. Now it's 150 kilometers.
Exactly.
So then it is the space war. So we have to move in this direction. But one caution that I would like to add is that we do not have to compete. We do not have to run into the race.
All right.
We have to ensure that our deterrence capability stays intact so that our security concerns are addressed and we can ensure our national interest.
All right. Now, speaking of national interest and that Pakistan needs to stand out on its own, many nations, as you very well know, are working individually as well as jointly to achieve excellence and domination through this technical or technological prowess. Do you feel Pakistan is well en route as far as adaptation of all of these technologies are concerned in the world?
I think we have taken few valid steps. And some of these do not fall in the domain of a public domain. We are moving forward. I think the emphasis I would lay down is on the indigenization of these technologies. That's the only way to have your own technologies. Because there is a word terminology used, technological apartheid. Because the world powers who develop critical technologies are not very willing to pass on those technologies. They would like to give you a few stuff. So if we want to, which we want to, ensure our interest, be counted for in the international community, we got to have our own technology.
All right. Finally, I want a very short answer to this, sir. What, in your point of view, need to be the contours of global policy framework in order to help build a world that is more stable and a more stable regional order as well, because we are seeing a lot of issues concerning this region and the world in particular?
Yeah, I think very pertinent globally, regionally and ourselves. We need to achieve, we need to contribute towards the world or the global security and we be an effective member. We need to ensure regional stability and we need to secure Pakistan. These are the three objectives that we have. Yes, so to be there in the world, we must engage the world power. And important countries must have very, very strong diplomacy to engage with them and be part of all the forums that are ending up into discussions and some agreement. So we need to be there and engage the world powers together. That is one number.
All right.
When it comes to region, we need to watch for what's happening in the region. And we need to trade very carefully. Like you just said, our presence in the region, we are close to the United States, we may be far away from them. We have CPAC to be protected, we are close to China. CPAC is our national interest. So we need to ensure our national interest, have balanced approach between China and United States, not become partners, rather become a bridge. Technologically, the third step is develop your own technologies.
All right. And let's hope that Pakistan moves in that direction and steadily, steadfastly, and in a manner that a lot of countries are, of course, that Pakistan can put itself in the Committee of Nations and be proud of all the achievements that it has made and will be making in the near future. Thank you very much, Air Marshal Farhat Hussain Khan, retired President of, you're retired from the Air Force, but you're currently the President of the Center for Aerospace and Security Studies. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. All the very best for this seminar on evolving global order, challenges and opportunities that begins on Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Thanks
sir.
for inviting and see you there in the seminar.
Inshallah, sir.
Thank you.
Let's come to our third segment, and that concerns the issue between the war between Ukraine and Russia. A lot is happening, a lot has happened, and of course the developments are coming up as far as the issues concerning those who have been affected by the war, and the war-like situation is also concerned in Ukraine. And of course we have a report by UNICEF as well as far as the children who've been affected by this crisis is concerned. More in the following report.
As the many risk factors accumulate, particularly ripple effects of Ukraine crisis continue to pose challenge. IMF has downgraded its global projections for next year and warned of a harsh worldwide recession if the fight against inflation is mishandled. Amid Russia's wide-ranging missile barrage on Ukraine and nuclear saber rattling, the war in Ukraine is entering a dangerous phase. Russian drones have struck buildings in central Kiev, and the latest raids come amid fierce fighting in the southern Kherson and eastern Donetsk regions. According to United Nations Children Agency, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rising inflation have pushed some 4 million children into poverty across Eastern Europe and Central Asia. UNICEF noted that children are bearing the heaviest burden of the economic crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. Rekindling hope of diplomatic breakthrough, the President of United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, called for dialogue, negotiation and diplomacy among all parties to end the war in Ukraine on a visit to Russia for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russian President Putin expressed Russia's appreciation for the UAE's efforts in playing a key role in the prisoner exchanges between Russia and Ukraine, saying they are a testament to its readiness to support mediation efforts.
Economist Saddam Hussain joins us online. Thank you very much, Saddam, to have joined us. When you look at the crisis as far as Ukraine is concerned, how do you feel this is going to shape the new energy landscape of the world? Also, what would be the repercussions as far as energy, energy insecurity for the developing world is concerned, and also the loss of lives, all the effects that it's going to have on the populace of the world, including those in Ukraine, as per the report of UNICEF?
I guess it is the Black Sea region where the conflict is Ukraine and Russia is for the Black Sea region. So it is one of the major source of energy exports towards the world, and also the food. So two issues arise from that. One is the food security and one is the energy insecurity. For now, Europe sees it as the influence game, so they will do everything and restrict Russia's influence at the cost of the developing countries. There's a trade-off. The developing countries will particularly be hit harder by these sanctions because of the higher, or I would say expensive energy imports. As far as the developed countries are concerned, for the short run, they would shift on the coal, etc., and import from elsewhere, which may be a bit expensive, but in the long run, which I see as like 7 to 8 years, as I see it, there will be more investment in green energy and energy efficient technologies and renewable energy sources. So the West has, I guess, decided that they have to shift from the energy which we are using right now, the fossil fuels, and they have to shift towards the green technology. But a question arises, where will the developing countries go? Because shifting towards the green energy requires a lot of R&D, and the billions of billions goes into that R&D. So will the Western countries and developed countries be able to compensate the developing countries, or would they bring in developing countries as well for this R&D, and would they share the research with the developing countries to have a cheaper energy resources? So these are so many questions arises from this issue.
A lot of questions also arise, Saddam, as far as the economic situation in the world, and especially in Ukraine, is concerned. Let's talk about the report of UNICEF that talks about children bearing the heaviest burden of the economic crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. It talks about 4 million children across Eastern Europe and Central Asia that have been driven into poverty, a 19% increase since 2021. Is this going to get worse in your point of view?
Yes, I see it as a worsening situation because there are two kind of ripple effects across the world. One comes from the food, the commodity prices are increasing, and the recent the development we see in OPEC and to control the oil supply. So the oil prices, if not increase, would remain stagnant, which is expensive already. So this would, but yes, this would drive many people towards below the poverty line. So there needs to be a collective action at the regional level and at the global level. So some compensation can be given, or some sort of arrangement must be given. So which the West and the US-led West sees as the war on the ideas from the Russia. But what about the countries like the developing countries where the people are driven below the poverty line? So either it is the developing countries should have their own kind of arrangement with the Russia and the US at the same time. But if they have to ally to some one bloc, then there should be a compensation mechanism as well.
You know, Saddam, children, whether it be in Russia or in Ukraine, people, whether it be in Russia and Ukraine, have been affected. You know, the repercussions of war are mostly on the people of the regions. When we talk of the children, Saddam, they are also at risk of violence, exploitation and abuse as a result of this poverty. What, in your point of view, needs to be the global response in order to avoid this as much as possible?
Immediate global response should be humanitarian kind of assistance, which the Russia and Ukraine as well should respond to, and they should allow, like the movement of grains and food out of the Black Sea region, and they must allow some sort of a supply, energy supply as well, minimum supply, so that the situation does not worsen over time, especially the food insecurity, because food is the main problem of the poor people. Even before 3 to 4 months back, Ukraine and Russia agreed to give a space for to supply the grains. So that sort of arrangement should be on the for a longer period of time, so that the food supply is not affected. So at least the poor people, because food has more weightage in the index. So somehow there should be an arrangement that a constant supply of food is ensured towards those areas where there's more poverty and more hunger, and children are as well a part of it. So this is the immediate response which should be taken care of.
All right, Saddam, also, you know, we have seen the effects of climate change. We've seen it in Pakistan. Also, the world, as we see, is living on the verge of climate-induced famine, floods, displacement. As I said, Pakistan is one of the prime examples. How is the Ukraine crisis, in your point of view, hampering global climate cooperation?
This is a very interesting question because when war is at the door, then other things kind of there, like under the back foot. The climate change issue is threatening to the developing countries, but in the case of conflict, the cooperation is a distant hope, I would say. But the Russia and Ukraine are in war, but regionally there should be we can have a regional kind of cooperation within ourselves. First of all, there should be regional collective action, then the global collective action. It would be difficult, but it would come in handy. It is a difficult situation to arrive at a convergence point, because UN and the Western countries have somehow realized that, yes, the developing countries have to be compensated for the development which the West has achieved at the cost of climate change. So there's understanding, but how much compensation and what would be the arrangement, and what would be the arrangement in the backdrop of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and Middle East and elsewhere. So how to arrive at a convergence point is the question at present.
All
so
right.
I guess
A lot of questions are there, of course, and I hope the world body answers them and goes in the right direction as far as addressing them in the right manner is concerned. Thank you very much, Saddam Hussain, Economist, to talk about the latest situation, of course, emanating out of this Ukraine crisis in the form of the report that UNICEF has taken out, and the poverty of the 4 million children in Ukraine and Russia that is so evident because of this war. A lot of other crises also because of this war are emanating, whether it be on the economic or the political front. Let's come to our last story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns India, that has slipped on the global hunger index, now ranks 107 out of 120 countries. It does also fare poorly on United Nations Human Development Indices. It is apparently, as per the different indexes, a large economy. Nevertheless, it has fared far worse than other South Asian countries, including our own, including Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. This is the third straight year in which India's ranking on this scale has fallen. It was previously ranked 101st in 2021 and number 94 in 2020. This report has been taken out by the German-based and Dublin-based organizations, which ranks countries by severity. It has given India a score of 29.1, a hunger level falling under the serious category. Let's hope India takes note of it and makes the necessary changes for the better. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. And of course, as I always end my show, to help those in need because of the floods in whichever form you can. Allah Hafiz.